Hello, I'm Ka Chun Lin. I'm the researcher of women history, cultural policy, and the elderly arts in Hong Kong. And I'm also the director of Men of Wings. Today, I'm going to present a topic on elderly art and cultural policy in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is currently facing a demographic shift because of the improvement of Hong Kong medical system. The life expectancy of Hong Kong people continue to increase, and the birth rate continues to decline, making the problem of population's aging more serious. According to the Hong Kong population's projections 2020 to 2069, released by the Hong Kong Census and Statistics Department, the average life expectancy at birth for men in Hong Kong in 2019 was 82 years, and female were 88 years, about 8 years higher than 30 years ago. The total birth rate in 2019 was 1,051 live birth per 1,000 women, well below the replacement level of 2,100. Such demographic change will have far-reaching impacts on Hong Kong society and economics, and increase Hong Kong medical system burden. For the past 10 years, creative aging has become more and more popular in Hong Kong. The so-called creative aging is to conduct activities for the elderly creatively. Art activities are kind of creative aging. We have also learned about the benefit of art activities for the elderly in different lectures. There are direct benefits such as mental care and quality of life. The indirect impact of creative aging is social aging. Artistic activities is a form of preventive tool in social aging. Therefore, creative aging makes an antidote to reducing the social cost of social aging. This reinforces the importance of developing elderly art in society, especially those with a rapidly growing elderly populations. In my experience and research, I found that the awareness of elderly arts in Hong Kong is extremely low, and there is no art policy for the elderly. In many years of my experience with elderly art groups, people often do not appreciate elderly art as a form of art. Furthermore, people do not respect elderly art. The public feel that elderly art is just a hobby with no artistic value. Unfortunately, some workers and art practitioners will also think in this way. It also makes elderly art more challenging to develop. To understand art development in Hong Kong, I would like to discuss the history of Hong Kong's cultural policy here. Many people say that Hong Kong is a cultural desert. However, from Hong Kong cultural activity and the policies promoted by the government, Hong Kong actually has had rich cultural activities. Although the government does not have solid cultural policy, in the history of Hong Kong's cultural policy development, there has been a few cultural policy or suggestions, even action and events affecting the Hong Kong culture before the war. But really speaking of the essential change in Hong Kong cultural and the social welfare policy, it must be that after the riot in 1967, the government promoted the social reform, including policy on youth, education, housing, and culture, to respond to social demand. For example, in terms of cultural event, the Hong Kong Festival has been held for 3 years since 1969, mainly through the cultural and the recreational activities to keep Hong Kong people away from the hazard of riots and strangers people reconnaissance of Hong Kong. In addition, in the 1970s, the Hong Kong government intends to promote the professionalization of art groups in Hong Kong, including the professionalization of Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra in 1974 and the establishment of the Hong Kong Arts Festival in 1973. The main reason is that Hong Kong needs some high art as a symbol of an international city, and the government has set the standard of level of arts. Furthermore, according to the research at that time, the main reasons for the riot in 1967 was that there was an empty government settlement because the young people has spare time. Therefore, the government wants the young people to enjoy recreation and the group activity in order to reduce the reaction force. The solution built by the scholars at that time was to promote the youth policy by establishing the youth centers in different regions in Hong Kong. One of the most important youth cultural policy was the establishment of Music Office in 1978. The Music Office also focused on the developing youth music, and it also intends to cultivate youth people into the cultural elite, especially for the music elite. And also the establishment of the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts in 1984 is also to cultivate the high standard youth artistic talents in Hong Kong. Therefore, we can see even now, the government view on culture and art has never changed over this year. They all focus on developing of so-called high art and the youth development. But this is understandable because in the social environment at that time, cultivating the youth arts talents are necessary. However, Hong Kong faced a declining birth rate, followed by an aging population. Does the policy need to be changed to respond to an aging society? We briefly introduced the history and the progress of Hong Kong cultural policy, and now we should understand Hong Kong policy on the elderly. The elderly policy in Hong Kong are mainly based on elderly care and rehabilitation. There are relatively traditional elderly policy. Therefore, the activity and facility of the elderly center in Hong Kong are mainly based on that. For example, the elderly with paid chairs use the computer to go online to do exercise in the elderly center. Most art-related activity are usually carried out in a form of interest group. The main goal is to provide the basic service so that the elderly have a little understanding of art, but it does not take the training of elderly artistic development. So it can be understood that art is just a tool to address the social welfare service. Under the existing social welfare system in Hong Kong, traditional services are provided and subsidized by the government, but innovative services are usually self-financed or freely sponsored by the social service agents. In the past 10 years, some welfare service organization in Hong Kong has also seen that the service under the traditional elderly policy may not respond to the social change. So they are implementing some innovative surveys. However, there are several problems. First, the most social service agents can only use the existing staff to provide the innovative surveys in many cases. The current staff has to face the work of their traditional surveys and at the same time participate in the work in the innovative surveys. It may not be possible to work in wholeheartedly. In the operation of the social service agents, social workers are often the leader. If they have an understanding of art, they may be able to achieve a better result. However, the opposite is also true. Without the support of the resources, some good innovative surveys may stop to function due to the insufficient resources. We are glad to see that many organizations and art practitioners are now operating the elderly art group, including Men of Winds, Donghua Group of Hospital Imager, ELCHK Men in Jazz, Chongin Theatre, Elderly Theatres, and Art Together inspiring drama programs for elderly. Therefore, Hong Kong has already begun to form an art culture for the elderly. But there is no cultural policy or art policies for the elderly. There are no subsidies or the guidelines for the elderly art. Singapore is also facing the problem of aging. However, we can see their government is fully support the development of elderly art. And you can refer to the Silver Art Festival in Singapore. I used to have an honor to let the elderly band to visit the art festival and learn that the Singapore government fully support the National Art Council to organize the Silver Art Festival. And Silver Art Festival has become the first government-led elderly art festival in Asia. In addition to the success of the festival, the art festival can redevelop their artistic talents for the elderly in Singapore, improve their physical and mental health, improve their quality of life, and reconnect with the society. The Silver Art Festival has also successfully contacted the foreign senior art group, including the group I used to work with, which the National Art Council of Singapore sponsors for our expansion of cultural exchange in Singapore. Furthermore, under the leadership of National Art Council, they have also created the Art and Aging Forum, which is similar to our current forum led by the CUHK. It can be seen that the Singapore government has gone further than Hong Kong in facing the problem of social aging, responding to social aging with creative agents from a practical and the academic perspective. Therefore, as an aging society in Hong Kong, the government needs to think carefully about this issue, and it can try to learn from the Singapore government practice. A non-government think tank our Hong Kong Foundation have done a research and the only elderly art research report in Hong Kong in 2018. The report was noted as Art Innovation Research Series 2, contributing the inclusive power of art. The research takes art integration as a starting point, and elderly art is only a part of the research. The research social impact has finally resulted in a policy change, but it is all focused on the disability art. It is a bit pity that it has not been helpful to the development of elderly arts in Hong Kong. Thinking back to 1970s, it is understandable that the culture drives the youth policy and the culture drives the social progress. We are also in response to the baby boom of the 1950s. However, today, in 2022, Hong Kong is facing an aging population issue, so our policy also have changed with the times. Before the end of my presentation, I would like to share with you a video recorded for the Malaysian International Virtual Band Championship 2021. We actually got the silver award in the competition. The piece is a festive prelude composed by Alphaville. This is a standard level 4 band piece. It is equal balance to high school level. The reason I want to share the video with you because I want to prove that the elderly with a proper music training, they can also perform the quality arts. Therefore, do not underestimate their potential. Please enjoy the video.
Hello, we are Men of Wings from Hong Kong. We are going to perform Festival Prelude by Alphaville. Hope you enjoy.
to the end of my presentation. Thank you. Please feel free to contact me if you have any thoughts of elderly arts development in Hong Kong or further collaboration. Thank you.